Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Thank you for stopping by again today. If you're new, I'd like to extend a big hello to you and I hope you enjoy the video, and hi to all my regulars. Thank you for tuning in. Today is our last video in the Junk Journal January 2026 challenge, and for this challenge I have been grouping my prompts together in bundles of 6. So we're up to the last 6 today, numbers 25 to 30, and then number 31 I'm going to be doing a reflection for that. And as you can see, I have done the cover. I often leave the cover until later in the challenge because I kind of get a feeling for what the journal is doing. And with this challenge, what I noticed is that I enjoyed doing lots of layers and textures. So that's what I've done on the cover. I've just layered up quite a lot of textures. I've put some washi down and then put some gesso over it, some fabric in the background, a little bit of collage soup printables and some other printables, and then the label from Creativity and Coffee for the challenge. And you can see I've put some hardware on. I stapled on a little bit of seam binding and I've put a few eyelets on as well. So I'm happy with the cover, and you can see that we're going on to our last spread. So this was last week's spread and we were doing prompts number 19 through to 24. And here's my last spread today. So let me get my things out and I'll show you the materials and I'll also tell you my ideas. So our prompts today that we're working on are rest, handmade, soft, cozy, wrapping, and pocket. And then, as I said before, the last one is a reflection. And it could be any kind of reflection, a reflection in water, but I'm going to do a handwritten reflection on the challenge. So we're really working on prompts 25 to 30 mostly. And you can see that I have pulled out some fabric samples, and it's actually got a label on it stating what number it is. And I've got a few little scraps there. And I've just cut down some fabric because I wanted to do some stamping on some fabric and use that as my background. And the reason I wanted to have fabric was because it's soft, it's tactile, and it's cozy. So that pulls in some of the prompts. Now, when I was looking at the prompts, quite a few of them all jumped together for me. So something that's handmade, that's soft and cozy, well, straight away that screams a handmade crocheted blanket or a knitted throw or something like that, which you can use for rest. So when you're resting, watching TV, you might often wrap yourself. So there's another one. Wrap yourself in a handmade, cozy, soft blanket that you take a rest with. So I went on the hunt for some images of handmade, cozy throws and blankets. And my grandmother used to make some of these. Actually, I've got one. And when I pause later to do some sewing, I'll grab it and I'll show you it. And I quite often will use it when I'm watching TV in winter and wrap myself up in it. So you can see that I have found this lovely image with a stack of handmade, and some are crocheted and some are knitted blankets. And some of them have tassels on them. So what I've done is I have sewn in, you can see I've taped over some sewing, I've hand sewed in some tassels into the image to give it some texture. Hopefully you can see those. And I'm going to do some stitching on here. I'm wanting to stitch onto the chair as if it's being wrapped, and I'm just going to do a little bit of stitching on some of the blankets as well. So we have that, and you can see that I've also put some fabric down the bottom here so that it grounds the chair. So it's going to go over here, and I'm going to sew that onto my fabric and use it as a pocket because pocket is one of our prompts. So I'm going to turn this into a pocket. Then on the other page you can see that I found another close-up image of some crocheted throws that are cozy and soft, and then I've put lots of long tassels on this one. Hopefully the camera is picking that up. So I've sewn onto the image quite a few bits of thread, and I've just used embroidery thread to sew it on. I have pulled out another piece of soft fabric that I'm going to put onto my page, and we're going to pop this over here, and I'm going to use that as a pocket as well. And you can see that I have stamped out with my alphabet stamps. I got these alphabet stamps just from Amazon, and I've stamped out the prompts that we're using today and labelled it prompts, and I've put rest, handmade, soft, cozy, wrapping, pocket, and reflection. And I've stamped that onto some watercolour paper that was left over from our page here. So as you know, I like to carry something over. So I'm carrying over some of my leftover watercolour paper. I've got two pieces here that I'm going to put into today's composition. And we're going to tuck one of these under here, and then I have all of the prompts for the challenge on this one, and I'm going to write my number 31 reflection on here and stick it into my pocket. And I have a surprise to go onto here at the very end. You'll see that I have cut this. You can see there's my finger. I've cut this, and I've got a little surprise that's going to be popping onto our pile of blankets, and they're going to rest on top. So that will be at the end for you to see. Let's start by stamping onto our background fabric, and it is cotton, and the name of it is Sand, and there's its code. It's just a sample fabric that I've got in my stash. Then we'll take it all to the sewing machine. Okay, so the stamp that I'm going to be using is Mr. Rabbit, and it's by Stampers Anonymous, Tim Holtz collection, and it is CMS 478, and I've pulled out the plaid. So I'm going to use the plaid, and I'm going to use the colour that I went hunting for that I thought would be the best. Ended up being a distress ink, which is not great for stamping, but the colour is what I'm after. So we'll see how we go. I'm only needing it to be in the background anyway, so we'll just do a tester of that. And I'm just going to be using Distress Ink Victorian Velvet. I went looking for a slightly dirtier pink in my inks, but I didn't really have one. I only had really bright inks, and I didn't want a bright ink. So we'll see how this goes. I'm just going to stand up so that I can see it better. Yes, that's good. I just wanted it subtle in the background because I'm going to be adding some stitching. Okay, let's have a little look and see if I've got enough stamped. Yes, I think that's fine. It possibly could have come down here a little bit, but let's not worry about that now. I'll put a little bit of extra stitching up here, I think. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm going to stitch some detailing onto the image, onto this image. Then I'm going to stitch some detailing onto the background and put this fabric on. And then I'll stitch this pocket on as well. So I'll do all my sewing and I'll come back to you in a moment. Okay, I'm back and I've done all that sewing. but I am no sewer. However, I gave it a good shot, so I can only get better at it by doing it. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a little bit of washi down the middle of this page just to give it a little bit of extra strength. Now, this one is number 39 from All and Create, and I'll just put a little bit of extra glue on it, a bit of glue stick, just to help it out. I hope you're all doing well and having a good week. The children are back at school today, first day back. So they were super excited about that, especially my granddaughter. She was excited about going into year 1 because she's a big girl now. So that was exciting for her. No longer in prep or kindergarten. Some states call it kindergarten. Some states call it prep. But she's in year 1. And my grandson is in year 3. So he's excited because he's going to the big end of school, up where all the big people go. Now, yes, that looks good, doesn't it? Now, I also think I'd like to just ink the edges of this because some of the white of the gesso is going to show. So let's put a little bit of ink on just to hide that edge on the top and the bottom. Hasn't the month gone quickly? I know for some people they think January goes slow, but this month has just flown for me, and I have been working a bit, so that always makes it go faster. Let's have a little look at my sewing, and you can see how distorted the page is, but what I did was I did just some gold thread, and I've done a few little decorative stitches around here and there, and I'm pleased that I did do that little bit of stamping. I think that it makes a big difference in grounding what's going on. We'll see if our prompts can fit in our pocket. Oh yes, they fit perfectly. Oh, that's lucky. I was mindful that I was not stitching too far in. On this one, you can see that I have done quite a lot of detail stitching onto the chair because I wanted to wrap the chair in thread and decorative stitching. So wrapping is one of our prompts. And you can see that I've done some stitching on the edge of the legs of the chair, and that's where I've stitched it onto the piece of fabric. And I've done some decorative stitching up here as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue those pages in with fabric glue. I can't stitch them in because I can't get the journal into my machine. The spacing won't allow it, so we need to just work with what we've got. So I am using some wash and wear glue, and it's fabric glue. It's permanent and it dries clear, and it's from Helmar, and I just got this from Spotlight here in Australia. So I'm going to put down a generous amount of glue and spread it out with my card. Okay, so let's put a little bit over this side. Okay, I'm happy with that. A few little bits are sticking out here and there, but it definitely looks homemade, which is the whole point. I'm wanting it to look like it's got a hand touch to it. So that's good. It's closing okay. Wonderful. That's stuck down reasonably well. It's not quite dry, but it's getting there. So let's see if our prompts and things go into our pockets okay. Oh yes, that's good. That sits there and it just has reflection sticking out the top. Now, I will write my number 31 prompt, which is reflection. I will write that on there just in my quiet time and reflect on the month of doing Junk Journal January and the things that I enjoyed and the things that I learned. So that's going to sit there for me to fill out, but it's definitely there waiting to be done. And all of the other prompts are on there. And I want that just to sit nice and neatly there. And our other thing is that I have the prompts for today, and I'm going to slide that into that pocket. So we definitely have covered pockets, haven't we? Now, you can see over to the side here we have a little friend. And our friend is this lovely cat, and I quite like cats. We normally have dogs, but when I was younger we had a cat, and it was a tuxedo cat, and her name was Tabby, and I loved her very much. So I like cats, but in adult life we've only had dogs. But I'd like to put our cat and add a little bit of a human touch to the composition, because it's all static at the moment, like it's all of static items. It doesn't have much life. So putting something that has life into the composition always helps. So I'm going to put our cat here, and you can see that I've cut that little hole for, I think it looks like a him actually. I think it's a him. So we'll call him a him. To put him just here, and his tail is flitting and playing with these little tassels here. You can just imagine it, can't you? The tail of the cat just sitting and resting, because rest is one of our prompts, on the pile of handmade, cozy, soft blankets. And it might be his favourite place to sit, and his tail's just flicking those little tassels. So we're going to glue him on there, and I like the look of that. Just finishes it off nicely. We'll ink him up. Got threads everywhere. I'll have to collect them and put them in my thread box. And we need to name him. Let's pull out our prompts list and see what name we can give him. I think that I'd like to call him Ink, because ink was one of our prompts. And we'll call him Ink. Ink the cat. He's got lovely markings on him. So let's stick him on there with his tail flicking. We won't glue his tail down. We'll let his tail just move amongst the tassel. And we'll just put that down so it says reflect, just poking out the top there. And our tail's moving. Now, I'll clear the decks, and then I'll do a little bit of splatter and some line work on it. Okay, let's do a little bit of line work first. A bit of pen work on it. I'm just going to put a few shadows in where we've got some shadows on our chair. And in amongst our fabric blankets that are stacked up and cozy, and definitely around Ink the cat, we'll just put a little bit of detailing on him, picking up some of his lovely inked markings on his body. Yes, that's good. Now I'll just do a few lines over here. And I'm just going to drop on a few white splatters just to break up the solid blocks of colour. And we're just going to use Liquitex acrylic ink. I'm not going to do too much. We don't want it on his face. Just to add a few highlights and a bit of movement. Yes, that will do. We don't want to overdo it today. Okay, let's dry that off, and we'll have a wrap up. Okay, so let's have a little look at our prompts. Today's prompts are rest, handmade, soft, cozy, wrapping, pocket, and reflections. And there's nothing more soft and cozy than wrapping yourself up in a handmade, crocheted, or knitted rug. Now, I said to you earlier that I would show you the one that I have that my grandmother made. Now, this would have to be maybe 50 years old, this throw, and as you can see, it's been well loved and used, and it's quite big, and I get it out in winter and throw it over the lounge. I'm not using it at the moment, obviously. You know, we're having a heat wave here in Australia at the moment, but I love it, and I get it out in winter. And I love it because it is cozy, but it reminds me of my Nanna. So when I was looking at these prompts, I thought a hand knitted rug or hand crocheted rug ticks off lots of those. You use it to rest in, it's handmade, it's soft, it's cozy, you wrap yourself up in it. And it ticks off 5 prompts all in one go. And that's why I wanted to find some lovely images of some handmade treasures, which I have. And you can see that I have made a couple of pockets that have prompts in it, and then reflection is going to go onto our pocket here that is behind the chair. And we have our cat sitting and resting on top of our pile of blankets, flicking his tail, playing with the tassels, and loving life and thinking this is the best place to sit and rest. So there's my last installment for the Junk Journal January, and we'll have one last flick through. I won't rehash what they were about, but I'll just say what the prompts were. So we have our Italian villa in the Amalfi Coast, and it was prompts 1 to 6. And I have videos for each of these double spreads. We have Tracy here, and she's having a tough week at work and is over it and ready to head home, so she throws all her papers into the air. And then prompts 13 to 18, we have our forager, and we've got papers that are floating around in the forest, in the air, because they were nailed to the tree, but some of them have come off. And our forager picked some of them up, took them home, and put them into her foraging journal. And while she was doing that, she spilt her ink pot and spilt ink all over her journal. And then prompts 19 to 24 was about collected layers, and I did a really peaceful, mindful scene of watercolour in the background with layers of hills and water and pockets, and come up with this statement: collected layers, a mindful use of blank time trimmed by joy. So this was about me wanting to make sure that I use my blank time to do something creative, all the things that give me joy. And then our last one today is of Ink, our cat, who's resting on our pile of handmade blankets. There we go. There's our Junk Journal January. Thank you so much for joining me during this journey. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and using your time to watch my videos. And thank you to everybody who has written a comment. It's so lovely of you to do that. I find them so encouraging, and I read everyone. So this has been a wonderful challenge to be part of, and a big thank you to Creativity and Coffee for hosting it. And I will have all the links of her channel down below, and I will have the hashtag link below as well for you to go and have a look at all of the other clever creators that are participating in the challenge. Okay, that's all from me today. I hope you're having a great week and finding a little bit of time to make something fun and new. And I will see you all very soon with another project. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye for now.